Hey, how's it going, everybody? Sarasota Tim coming to you from the Boynton Beach public beach area, walking down here to A1A. We're trying to stay in the shade a little bit. It's so hot. And I have a nice hat that I bought. I forgot it's in my truck, which is only about 500 or 600 yards away. I could go and get it, but I'm sporting my new haircut for you guys. So anyway, today's video is about the housing market and the new revelations that are etched in stone now to a degree. A lot of good hard information that's just came about from the feds and the speculation and what we're going to do and what's it going to cost and what will it make happen, what are rents and housing prices going to do. Well, while there's no true crystal ball, there are a lot more things that we can predict and talk about, and I'll try to make it very simple so it's not so complicated. Well, everybody's heard of Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, right? And they are the ones that are independent of the US government, and they regulate the interest rates, which determines if people buy or not, because if rates are low, people buy houses, cars, big ticket items. However, if interest rates get high, which they're doing right now, and they have been doing for 15 consecutive months, except this month they made a pause, but it's not a pause, they're actually just going to skip a month, and they will continue to raise rates starting next month. So don't think that we're on a pivot. And that's what everybody's been waiting to find out. Is the Fed going to start to pivot and drop these rates so that people can refinance their houses and drop their mortgage payment that bought a house during this inflationary time and these overpriced homes? Is it going to make it more affordable for new buyers? Is it going to, make car purchases better and all that? Well, the reason the Fed pause is because they're working with the central banks and all the local banks on them helping out by making it a lot more stingy and a lot more difficult to get a loan. Not so much on the consumer level quite yet, but that's coming. Things are tightening up, but as far as these developers and investors that have bought like half the homes during this big run-up, I don't know if you knew that, but investors bought like half of them. And then they rent these houses out, most of them, or they flip them, and they're looking to make a profit versus what it costs them to get the money, which was almost for free, and because they were making a profit. So why not buy a house? There's no risk for them. So that's why they ran up, and Zillow and places were buying them sight unseen and paying over list price and all that. Well, the party is over. Two things. One, the rate is not going to come down. The mortgage rate's at 7% right now, and that's going to be the new norm. That will be 5% or above will be the new rate for years. You will never see a 2, 3, or 4% interest rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage in your lifetime. And I don't say that emphatically. I say that most probably. And right now, you're not going to see any reduction for a long time because the banks are tightening, and they're tightening because they're working in conjunction with the Fed that's been raising the rates. The Feds are afraid of breaking something. They're afraid if they raise it another 25 basis points that the stock market was going to crash. Everybody's been speculating the stock market's going to crash. Well, the stock market's been running up because of AI. Everybody's got this new thing that they're believing in, that's the future, and so artificial intelligence is the new. So the NASDAQ and the stock market are seeing bullish type runs right now, even with everything else that's in the toilet. High prices for everything, expensive houses, high interest rates. So what will this do? Well, it's good news, because now that the banks are not going to loan any more money, practically, to investors. If you can't make north of 5% on a home as an investor, well, first of all, there was plenty of interviews you can see on YouTube, investors that are solid, well money backed. Can't even get the loan from these banks now because they're trying to tighten. They're working with the feds to bring this inflation down. So the feds have said, all right, let's see what you do. And I'll pause another 25 basis points for June. And because if they tighten the lending and raise the interest rates, the Federal Reserve, then that could cause what they're trying to put off, the inevitable, and that's a correction in the stock market and in the housing market. They don't want their cronies and the big time investors to lose money, you know, like a huge haircut, like I got, a real close one. They don't want it to drop that fast, but it's inevitable. So the feds are working with the banks and they're saying, all right, you're telling us you're going to tighten up. Well, let's see. So they're giving it another month, and it takes time. You know, when the rates have been raised 15 months straight, a year and a half, the federal government has come out every single month and raised the rates from what was it in the beginning? I think it's about 5%, 5 points. They've raised it over the last 15 months. You know, at a quarter point, there was 1 point in the beginning, then it's been like a quarter point, it was a half a point once in the beginning. Now they've been doing baby steps. And everybody got to the point where, look, if it goes up one more time, that's going to crash the stock market. That's going to cause huge issues and crash the real estate market and all these people that have bought these homes. But the banks, instead of like refinancing people right now, these big investment borrowers, what they want to do is they want to foreclose on those loans and get those loans off their books because they want to generate cash. Because right now the bond market's pretty good, and the people that are buying houses, these investors that were, you know, they buy a house for $450,000 and then they rent it out and they can't get the rent, and the mortgage rate is so high that's costing them to buy the house. Their profit margin, or their cap cost they call it, is so narrow it's not worth it to them. So get out of here, this guy wants to turn the blower on. Oh boy, it's going to be a noisy thing. Let me walk away and I'll come right back. Okay, yeah, so these investors can't borrow money to buy houses, and the ones that were buying, because the rate went up, their profit margin was like a loss. I mean, so what's the point? You could buy a CD right now at 5.1% with no risk. Why not just buy a certificate of deposit rather than, you know, go through the, renting a house out and getting a tenant in there and the maintenance upkeep and all this and not even make a profit? I mean, it's a profit deal, remember? So if there's no profit, they're out. Well, they're out by proxy, not by preference, because the banks aren't going to lend them any more money. It's over. The party's over. The real estate market is toast. The commercial real estate market is toast. I mentioned in a previous video where Wells Fargo sold a tower, I don't know, in California somewhere. They wanted $160 million for it, and it sold for $40 million. After $40 million, they paid $108 million. They put $40 million in renovations in it, wanted $160, got lowball offers, pulled it off the market, and then ended up selling it for $42 million. And the story goes on and on with very similar scenarios with other things. Interest rate isn't going to come down, so people that own these houses that have been sitting on the fence about selling their home and making a fortune on it, when they realize and wake up and smell the coffee that their interest rate is going to be 7%, it's 6.5%, 7% right now, from now on, for a long time, then people can't afford it. The affordability is out of reach for 99.9% of everybody. So they're going to have to lower their price of their house. It's not that it's going to be forced down, but if the stock market crashed and other, things, other catalysts cause, hysteria, that would crash it too. But people on their own, if they want to make money and they want to sell their home, they're just going to have to get realistic, like I said, and smell the coffee. Somebody has to make 150 grand just to even get qualified for a loan, if they can even get a loan now. Things are getting tight. So what does this all mean for us little people, that are trying to rent something and the rents are high? Well, right now, the cost of renting is so much cheaper than buying a house that the rents are kind of holding, but they are coming down too. And you say, why would that be? Well, I'll tell you right now, a very good reason. Do you guys know that the student loan debt that was being paused for 3 years since March of 2020 and no interest is starting back next month? July or August, September, something like that. All these loans that were not forgiven, and these people are going to have to start paying their loans again. Guess how much a loan payment is on average? $300-400 a month. And they were trying to forgive like $10,000 of it for certain borrowers that went to a school and the school misrepresented something or whatever, something to that effect. But by and large, there's no forgiveness, and the party's over for you too. You got to start paying your student loan. Well, that's the Gen Z. A lot of people, even my age, that still have student loans that are still paying them. Well, much younger than me, but there's a lot of older people. It's not just kids. But that is the age group of people looking to buy their first home that can't afford it for all the reasons we just talked about. And now they're going to have 9 to 10% of their income gone, just cut out, having to pay the student loan back. So, you're only allowed about 30% of your income. They do a ratio. You're only allowed about 30% to get qualified that you can afford on a mortgage. Well, hell, it's more like 50-60% now for most people of their income every month just to make the house payments. People are house poor. So anyway, when you take that part of the market out because they have to start making these loan payments, that's going to kill the real estate market too and bring it down. So we're on our way down. You're going to see in 2023, probably towards the end of the year, even Jerome Powell said the other day when he came out and announced the pause, that we have to wait and see that these things, we haven't gotten the results yet. We have to see what's coming. Well, we already know what's coming. It's a wave, and it's a wave of bad times, but it's a good wave because it's what I talked about before. We need this. We need these zombie businesses that are losing money that just need to go out. We need these unemployment to go up for these crap jobs. 233 huge corporations have filed bankruptcy in 2023. 233. What was it? Bed Bath & Beyond and others. So we're starting to see, and you're going to see more of that because corporations have finally said it's time to give up. We're not going to get the loans. The economy is in the tank. The real estate market, the interest rates are high. We're never going to see consumer goods and consumers out spending discretionary spending like it was. So we give up. They held on a hope and dream that the Fed would pivot, lower rates, print money, put out stimulus checks, do all the stuff we did a couple of years ago. But they were dreaming. That's the garbage truck out there blowing his horn. He's getting ready to back up. He does it every time. So anyway, that's kind of like a mixed bag of kind of what's going on. There's something about to happen with the rent though. I can feel it. Because when people lose their jobs and they can't pay their rent, the Gen Z crowd, all these people renting, they're having to pay these student loans now, and landlords aren't getting their money. That's when they're going to reduce the rents. They're like, well, what can you pay? People do what they got to do. It's business. And when we printed $20 trillion and, filled the pockets with everybody, it was raining out of the sky, yeah, they were getting big money. But the party's over, and you can look forward to 2024 being a very tumultuous year, a big swell of changes you're going to see probably by the end of this year. Some good, some bad, some very good, some very bad. Depends on what your position is and what you were waiting for. So don't wait too long. If you got stocks, I'd get out. If you own a house, a second or a third one, I'd sell it. If you are wanting to sell your main home and just downsize and, become a minimalist, or buy a condo and get out from under all the costs of home ownership, insurance, and maintenance, and property taxes and all that, and you just want to rent or something, drop that price, sell that home. Sell it while people can get a loan now, while people have a job now and they want it now. Because as soon as they start to see all this negativity coming and no interest rates dropping and costs are high, you're going to be stuck. Then what's going to happen is you're going to default. Then they're going to foreclose on you and you're not going to have anything. So, don't be greedy. All right, guys, that's the end of this one here. I crushed it.